I feel like at this point, do the earnings even matter anymore? Because you'll have a company that is solid, awesome, and amazing, surpasses and beats all of the expectations that are placed upon them by the Wall Street analysts, and they'll still go on an unjustified sell-off and go into the red by -10, -20%. It's ridiculous. That's the type of stock market that we are operating in right now. However, for this upcoming week, there are some heavy hitters, but not so much. I would even say it's a kind of boring and mild week in the stock market, especially in regards to the earnings. However, there is a whole industry and sector where I feel like almost 90% of the big names are reporting, and it's a ton of the pharmaceuticals and biotech companies. I'm not interested in them because, for one, they have massive volatility. They either go 30% into the green right after their earnings, or they go down by like -50%. There's almost always no in between. It's one or the other, one extreme or the other. And for those companies, especially the biotech, the fundamentals and financials do not matter. Because when it comes to evaluating them and grading them and being bullish on a biotech company, it's contingent upon their pipeline of drugs and patents, and whatever it is, making it through the clinical trials. That way they can sell it off to a bigger pharmaceutical company. Or if you are the big pharma company, then you just have to put it out to market, GTM. But let's go ahead and get started. This is the overview of important companies that are reporting this week. If this is all you want to see, I'll see you next week. I love you. Stay safe. But if you want to stick around, we are going to go a little deeper and talk about each day individually. Monday, these are literally the only two companies that I thought were relevant, and even then, I'm not going to be monitoring their progress or how they're doing or what their sit rep is for the past 90 days. Monday, no care. Tuesday, what do we have? We have some heavy names, right? We have Target, one of the biggest big box retailers out there. They went on a they went on a dip a week or two ago, and I think a lot of the older investors, and especially dividend investors, they were picking up shares of Target, which I don't blame them. I recently sold out of my Target position, but I still think they're fundamentally a really good company. However, I think the hurdle that they have to overcome right now is that they have alienated both sides of the aisle, meaning they used to be a fan favorite of everyone. Now they're a fan favorite of almost just the quiet, or I guess the moderate people. The DEI, LGBTQ community, they don't like Target right now because they decided to stop, being on their team as an ally. And then in the conservative side, they also don't like them because they went too much into Pride Month like 2 years ago. And now they're kind of like, okay, we're not going to do one or the other. We're just going to operate as a business and stay neutral. But at this point, I feel like they burned a lot of the bridges. And so, I don't know, it's a polarizing company for now. And that is something that they're going to have to recover from. But in terms of their financials, fundamentals, their supply chain, I think that's a pretty good company. There's also Best Buy, which I truly do not understand how they are thriving. I guess I understand. A lot of the older folks, ones that are in their 60s or 70s, they'll walk into a Best Buy, ask for help, and it's that in-person quality, I think, that is what is allowing that company to thrive right now in 2025. And then there's also Sea Limited. Sea Limited, if you're not aware, I'm about to put you on. They're basically the Singaporean version of Amazon. They dominate Southeast Asia. When we talk about the Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, they're operating an e-commerce platform, also known as Shopee, and it's the market leader in that region. There are other players doing what they do, but Shopee is number one. And they also have a very strong gaming segment known as Garena and a digital bank known as C Money. So when I think about it, when I see Sea Limited, it's a whole bunch of companies in one. They're Amazon in one sense, but they're also PayPal and Coupang from South Korea. If all of them got together, had an affair, and had a baby, that's what I see as Sea Limited. Well, am I going to be interested in them? No, because their footprint and their scale is so hyper focused on one region of the world that their growth story right now I believe in, but 10 years from now, I don't know. However, Indonesia, I think it's one of the top 10 biggest countries in the world in terms of population. I know, that's a fun fact. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is if they were operating in China or in the US or in Europe, I think I would feel a little bit more bullish about their future prospects. But I think for the short term, not a bad idea. That's C Limited. What else do we have? There's AutoZone. And then I guess the other day, Advance Auto Parts reported their earnings and they got crushed. Just absolutely annihilated. So if their peer is anything of or an indicator of how AutoZone might do, I don't know. Tuesday, and I don't have a good feeling for them. There's also On Holding, as you can see in the picture in the bottom right of your screen. It's a running shoe, or I guess walking shoe company based in Switzerland. I tried them on at the store because I was a hater, and I see the hype. It's pretty comfortable. I don't know how they perform in terms of running, but this is one of the companies that is currently squeezing the left titty of Nike. On, Hoka, New Balance, Brooks, Saucony, all of these companies right now, they're not giving Nike a chance to breathe. Nike is struggling on all fronts. And I say that as a guy that is wearing a Nike t-shirt. Like, Nike makes a pretty good quality product. Their brand, however, I don't know, it's suffering. It's lost that sex appeal. And then, of course, there's also Ross. I love Ross. However, if given the option, I would rather go into a Marshalls or a TJ Maxx. And if you don't know what Ross is, it's basically actually, how do you describe it? It's a retail store where you can buy high quality brand clothing, items, household stuff from like 5 years ago. So they'll buy it from these companies that are just trying to get rid of it so they can reduce their overhead costs and make room for the next year's model or brand or series. And Ross, TJ Maxx, and Marshalls, they'll buy it by the pallet, by the pound, at like wholesale prices. And then like 5 years later, they'll put it on their shelves and sell it. But given the option, I would rather go into Marshalls or TJ Maxx because although I like Ross and their offerings, I feel like every time I go in there, it's as if like a hurricane went through the aisles. Stuff is all over the floor. It's dirty. It's a mess. And I don't know if it's my luck or just the areas that I've lived in, but every single time I go in, there's always some drama happening, like someone stealing and the security fighting with them, or just the cashiers and the people arguing. I don't know. So in terms of like a shopping experience, not that good, but the products that are sold there, like you can get this shirt that I'm wearing right now, this Nike t-shirt. Like you could buy it brand new from Nike itself for like $50-$60, or you could get it at Ross for like $15, maybe $14.99. And then there's also Owlet, which pretty interesting company I would never invest into. They make socks for babies, but more so than that, in the sock itself, they monitor the baby's like heart rate, their oxygen levels, their stress levels, and I think that's because I think there's a fear among like new parents because there's such a thing known as like a sudden infant death syndrome or something like that, where they could just pass away at a moment's notice. And so a company like Owlet bridges that gap and that pain point by allowing you to feel, I guess, confident at all hours of the day on how your baby is doing. Would I ever invest into this company? No. But am I glad that a product like Owlet socks, baby monitors exist? Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. Let's see. Let's move on to Wednesday. I'm telling you, this is not a very exciting week in the stock market in terms of earnings. Some other stuff could happen, right? The tariff wars have just started. It's March now by the time you watch this video. So we'll see what happens. The market could either overreact and start another correction, or it could be a really good buying opportunity. And we'll speak more on that here in a little bit. Wednesday, we have Abercrombie, which is also the parent company of Hollister. Now, I went to high school in the 2000s. And let me tell you, Abercrombie and Hollister back in the day, super relevant. Everybody wanted to wear a polo, especially if you could pop the collar. That was the thing. However, in the 2010s, they fell out of favor with the consumers because they were still promoting and selling an image of like a preppy outfit, which did not resonate with the millennials. And so this company went through a lot of hardships, setbacks. They closed a bunch of stores and their financials were trash. However, in the past 2.5 to 3 years, they've completely changed their game plan. And instead of offering a preppy look, if you look at their catalog and go to their website, they sell clothes that resonate with Gen Z, like oversized t-shirts, baggy sweatshirts, baggy pants. Because back in the day, it was all about skinny jeans, right? I remember I got my first pair of skinny jeans in like 2004. Now, nobody wears skinny jeans unless you're above the age of 30. The new generation, if you've ever seen their outfits, they literally go to school or work in pajama pants. I'm not exaggerating. And if they're not in pajama pants, they wear jeans and khaki pants that's super wide-legged. Like I'm talking about the 1970s bell-bottom type of pants. So, I don't know, something about the fashion industry that's interesting is every style and fashions, it goes in cycles. At one point, mullets were ugly, and then mullets came back. Mohawks were a thing, and then mohawks went away, and then it turned into the faux hawk. Especially the types of attire that we wear. I think in just a matter of time, I think polo shirts are going to be making a comeback. I remember when I had to dress business casual in the office. Me personally, in the summertime, I don't like wearing a dress shirt. However, I needed to look the part of a senior manager, so I still wore a polo. And I thought it looked professional. Every one of my colleagues, they wore, business button-down shirts, but I was a polo kind of guy, and I'm hoping that one day polos make a comeback. What else do we have? We also have Foot Locker, retail store that sells shoes. They used to partner very closely with Nike, but Nike, dude, their past CEO that just resigned, he was all about being direct to the consumer, especially with their inventory channels, and eliminating their third-party partners like Foot Locker. Instead of dealing with them, they wanted to just sell their shoes directly from Nike.com to the consumers. And as a result, I think that put a really bad taste into Foot Locker's mouth. Because not only did their financials suffer for that, but now if you walk into any Foot Locker, the next time you go to the mall with your family or whatever, hop into a Foot Locker. They'll have every brand featured up front except Nike. So I think these retail shoe stores, they're pissed off at Nike. I'm telling you, dude, Nike has just made way too many bad decisions in the past 5 years. Ever since the pandemic, just decision after decision has just been atrocious. And that's why their company right now is suffering. I truly think that Nike is a really good product. However, I think the way that they are running their business right now and as a stock, not good. Just because a company is a really good business doesn't mean the stock is going to be good as well. Some people might argue that they're undervalued, but I think they're still way too expensive. They're trading multiple for what they are and what they're going through. They should be at like a 12 or a 13 PE ratio. I'm not kidding. We also have Campbell Soup. And believe it or not, about like 2 weeks ago, I was going ham. I was buying up a lot of the restaurant stocks. Sorry, not restaurant, a lot of the food stocks. And Campbell did not make the cut for me. I wasn't a fan of their financials, their fundamentals, but also their eroding moat. And I can go on because I feel like their business model is still relevant, right? Canned food, snacks, soups. And I think they just acquired a company like maybe 7 or 8 months ago that does like pasta. I think their business model makes sense, but I think the way that they're marketing towards the consumers is just not good. Because I think a lot of people are waking up to the idea of wanting to get their food more fresh, less preservatives, healthy ingredients. But for Campbell, I feel like 50% of their business model, which is like, I'm talking about the canned foods, I'm not talking about their snacks division, it's predicated upon using a ton of ingredients so that the shelf life of that canned good can be 2, 3, 4 years. So I understand that's their thing, but I just don't know if it's resonating with, that 44-year-old mom who goes to the grocery store to shop for her family. I feel like instead of reaching over to grab a Campbell soup, they're going to go to the frozen aisle and get a frozen or cold soup instead that they can just toss into the microwave. Just some observations that I think are happening in the real world. But anyways, what else? We have Dine Brands Global, which is the parent company of Applebee's and IHOP. Did I say IHOP? Which I'm a fan of IHOP, but if it's between IHOP and Denny's, if we're going to be honest, it's Denny's every single day of the week. If it's Denny's versus Cracker Barrel, that's easily Cracker Barrel. If it's Cracker Barrel versus First Watch, it's got to be First Watch. First Watch is also a publicly traded restaurant stock that only operates from like 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. They're closed lunch and dinner. So when I think about their margins and their business model, it's super efficient. And if you're bullish on breakfast restaurants, I think First Watch is the way to go. But anyways, for Dime Brands, please don't take this the wrong way. If you're invested into them, my personal take is that it's one of the worst restaurant stocks available on the stock market. The Applebee's, struggling. They're genuinely struggling. Their financials are trash. Their revenue is declining year over year. This is a company that's in a whole world of hurt. I would not want to go anywhere near them. Another company that has been going on a sell-off lately is Chipotle. And I told the folks on Patreon my buy price, and I've been monitoring them closely. If given the option between Chipotle versus Dime Brands, I would go with Chipotle every single day of the week. And I don't even eat at Chipotle, but their economic moat, especially their customer loyalty, man, I think out of all of the restaurant stocks out there, I think another company that has that loyal of a customer base, probably Texas Roadhouse, but they don't operate and compete in the same sphere. Because Texas Roadhouse is more of a sit-down restaurant where you leave a tip, right? And you get a basket of those delicious dinner rolls with the cinnamon butter. Chipotle is one of those places where you order what you want. It's like Subway. You order what you want, you pick up your burrito, you pay, and then you leave. It's a QSR, a quick service restaurant, whereas Texas Roadhouse is more of a dine-in establishment. So I think those would be my two takes of being like the most pound-for-pound economic moat with a loyal customer base. Another one in the beverage category would be Starbucks. I sold out of all of my shares of Starbucks, but you can't deny that Starbucks has loyal customers, people that are willing to pay $5.50 for bean sugary water. It's the brand. I'm telling you, the brand itself, I don't think people realize like that's an economic moat. It doesn't have to necessarily be the product. They don't have to be the best portion sizes, the best ingredients, or the best taste. Sometimes the brand itself, like think about it, your old man, right? He would only buy a Ford truck, right? Because he had that loyalty towards Ford, even though it always broke down and it had transmission issues by 20,000 miles. So I think that's one thing that I've been baking in more to my stock valuation. I guess whether or not I want to start a position in a company, I started to add more points to a company that has a very strong brand. Anyways, I don't even know why I went on that rant. And there's also Marvell, which they're in the semiconductor space. I would argue they're probably competing with AMD, Broadcom, Nvidia, and a little bit of Intel. And then there's also Grindr. Funny enough, I would never buy into one of the dating services, platforms, or mobile apps, right? I don't care. I would never buy into it. But if someone were to, I don't know, put this water bottle right above my balls and was like, you have to pick one or I'm going to smack it as hard as I can, I would go with Grinder. Now, this is the stupidest investing thesis. I mean, I did check their numbers on a surface level, and it seems to be growing in almost all metrics year over year, and I think they're finally profitable. They actually have positive free cash flow finally. But at one point, I used to be roommates with a gay man, and it was an interesting dynamic because he would always bring guys over, and I knew what they were going to do. And I would just go to my room, put on my headphones and do whatever I had to do. No, if you think I'm the kind of guy to put my ear up against my wall so I can hear them, you're wrong. I'm straight. But anyways, he would always tell me afterwards, like his little gay adventures, and he'd be like, yeah, I met him through Grindr. And so that was my first introduction to Grindr. And I remember thinking at the time, like, that's such an interesting service. Because when you think about like Tinder, Bumble, Coffee and a Bagel, Plenty of Fish, any of these like dating apps and everything, I feel like it's catered towards, the straight person, the heterosexual orientation individual. But to be a part of the LGBTQ community, they didn't really have one that was just for them, for people that are thinking in the same wavelength, if that makes sense. So anyways, all that to say, I think if I had to invest into one, it's Grindr. Because I'm not saying that I'm bullish on dating apps in general, but it has such a strong... Because think about it, if you're straight, you have so many options to pick from, right? You could go to Bumble, you can go to Tinder, you can go to this. You could just cold approach someone through Facebook or Instagram or on TikTok. So many different mediums and avenues. But if you're like a gay dude in his 40s, Grindr is literally the way to go. It's almost the only option. And I feel like it's a universal truth, whether you're in Poland, whether you're in Australia, whether you're in the US, maybe you're going on vacation. Maybe you're just going on a work travel flight to Melbourne for a weekend. If you're gay, what are you going to pull up? You're not going to pull up Tinder. You're going to pull up Grindr. The stupidest investing thesis I know, but because they have such a footprint and a monopoly on specific sexual orientation people that are trying to, I guess, find love or look for some dirty action, I think Grindr is a solid business. But once again, I would never invest into dating apps. Never. I don't care. Would never invest into them. Because I just feel like, call me old-fashioned, call me weird, but I think the more and more the world becomes digitalized, I feel like there's a new generation of kids and people who don't even know what it's like to meet your significant other at school or at church or from your neighborhood or growing up together. They don't even know what that's like because they're so used to the idea of just downloading one of these dating apps and falling in love with someone that lives 500 miles away. Like that seems to be the new norm. And so I guess the point that I'm trying to get at is I hope one day that we can become a society that embraces that fellowship, that community, that face-to-face interaction once again. And that's why, like, there's some people that fearmonger and say, like, oh man, every YouTuber is not going to have a job in the next 3 years because everybody is just going to be AI, right? AI-generated content, AI person talking to you. One of my roommates, when I used to be in the Army, we were both lieutenants, and we decided since we don't have a girlfriend, we're not married, we don't have kids, we might as well just room together. I love the guy. And that's what we did. We roomed together. And with officer pay, it was pretty good. But anyways, he used to be the biggest fan of anime, which, I don't know, I wasn't. He tried his hardest to get me into it. I tried, I just could not get into anime. I feel like every 2 years I try, right? I revisit the anime universe thinking like maybe I can do it again. I tried it again in 2024 for like 4 weeks straight, just trying out all of the best anime shows that the internet recommends, and I still could not get into it. But anyways, all that to say, this dude loved anime, and one of his favorite aspects of like that whole anime manga culture was this girl where she was like a digital character that made songs. I forgot what her name is. I think it starts with like a hit H. I live in Japan, which is pretty embarrassing that I don't even know the name of this character. I know what it looks like because he had posters of her all over our house. Was it a little embarrassing? Yes, but he's my roommate, so I mean, I'm cool with it. Right? If it's not hurting me, if it's not harming me, if it's not annoying me, then I didn't really care. I let him put the posters and his little toys wherever he wanted in the house because we're roommates. I don't really care. But if he were to pull his pants down and take a dump on the dining table, then we would have problems, right? But it wasn't like that. But anyways, it was a digital character, not even a real person. And there's a real human. What do they call it? A robot vocaloid or something? Robot voice. And it's singing. And there's fans all over the world who are in love with this AI robot character. And so that was my first taste of like, I guess what people are saying, there is some merit. Because this was like 11 years ago. Even back then, there were people falling in love with a fictional character that makes music videos and songs. All that to say, people saying, oh man, YouTubers, you guys are cooked. You guys are going to be unemployed. You're going to have to go get a real job. Which for me, it wouldn't be the end of the world. I mean, I would be pissed off, but I mean, I have corporate experience. My resume is pretty stacked. If I had to quit YouTube, I would be sad, but I mean, I would pivot back into corporate America. But here's why I'm not too worried. Because, like I just said, when it comes to these like AI YouTube channels or these fake digital characters, I think what they're missing is that human touch, that personality, that ability to connect with the audience. And like, obviously an AI can respond to you like, you know, quote unquote, glad you enjoyed it. Hit subscribe. Like an AI can do that, but it's different when a human interacts with you. Does that make sense? Am I just talking out of my ass today? I feel like I'm being crazy. Maybe this is just a minority, unpopular opinion. Because I refuse to watch AI channels or AI content. I just feel like it's so manufactured, cheap, fake, and half the time the stuff they say is just incorrect, incoherent. Whereas with a human, like even if they're stupid or they say something wrong, at least you can understand where they're coming from if they're logical enough to explain their thought process. Because I know a lot of people who watch my stuff, they see my face and they click unsubscribe right away. Or if I say something that offends, I guess I'm trying to do a better job at this, like Dime Brands Global. In the past, I would just straight up start trashing it, telling you the unfiltered truth. Like if you're invested into it, you better sell out of it. They're trash, they're poo-poo, they're doo-doo. And then, people would voice their opinion at me like, you're an idiot. What do you know? This company is amazing. They make the best pancakes. Listen, buddy, I know you think they make the best pancakes, but on paper, their financials, their data, the numbers, absolutely horrific. But I don't know. Do you share that sentiment? Do you think in like 3 to 5 years when every YouTube channel becomes AI, it's all fake, do you think we're just going to continue as normal? Or do you think the ones that stand their ground and show their face and is a real human, do you think they're the ones that will thrive? I don't know. I guess that's something I'm going to have to think about after this video because, it's kind of weird. Can you imagine your favorite YouTuber, like in 2028 is not even a real human? It's some dude sitting in a basement in India, creating an AI generated image of a guy with blue eyes and blonde hair, perfect American accent, talking to you about the best stocks of the week. Bro, that's going to be a weird and crazy reality to live in. But anyways, all that to say, that's one of the reasons why I decided to show my face. I feel like I wanted to differentiate myself from a lot of the faceless finance channels to show you like, dude, I am not AI anything. Okay, this is like the real me. I might not be always correct. I might not always be too smart. I might be ignorant. But at least I will talk to you and explain step by step why I reached the conclusion that I did. Anyways, I'm blabbering. Oh my gosh, what am I even saying? Okay, let's go on to Thursday. I think Thursday, there we go. Thursday, it starts to get a little more interesting. Didn't we just talk about Cracker Barrel? That's funny. I think I told a few of you before, I used to be really invested into Cracker Barrel when I just started to get into the stock market. And my investment thesis at the time was every time I go to a Cracker Barrel, because I went to university in the state of Virginia, which some people say it's not the South. But if you know anything, I think Virginia is pretty South, considering Richmond, Virginia was the capital of the Confederacy. And I'm not saying I support the South, but when we talk about the history, I'm pretty sure Virginia constitutes itself as a sovereign state. Anyways, my friends and I, we used to go to Cracker Barrel, and every single time I went to the restaurant, I noticed it was jam-packed, right? It's like a family vibe and environment. When you go in, like every location will have a unique decor. They don't have this corporate dead feeling inside, like gray walls everywhere, and no personality. Each Cracker Barrel location will have photos from like the 1800s, artifacts from the surrounding area. It's kind of like a museum almost. And it was quite simple. I was like, okay, it's always jam-packed. Their business seems to be doing well, and the food, amazing. And this was before I learned to dive into the 10K, before I learned to tune into their earnings calls, before I learned to read an income statement or a balance sheet. I invested into them, and I did pretty darn well. However, once the pandemic hit, I sold out of all of my restaurant stocks, and I'm kind of glad I did. Because Cracker Barrel, since the pandemic, dude, they've been going on this horrific spiral of declining in every single category. And because I have a soft spot for the company, since they gave me so much gains in the past, I looked into it. Come to find out, their core audience, obviously, is people that are traveling. Because Cracker Barrel, they open up locations near the highway. So it's a place where you can grab gas from a gas station across the street and then dine at Cracker Barrel and then go back on the road. So they're not going to be located in New York City or in Toronto or Detroit or Chicago. Rather, there's going to be a Cracker Barrel in the middle of nowhere on a highway. Does that kind of make sense? Sometimes they're near the outer city limits of like a bigger metropolitan area, but not downtown. And their secondary demographic are the older folks, people above the age of 60, 70, 80, that still, long for and appreciate the old vibe and feel and atmosphere of Cracker Barrel. Because when you walk into it, it feels like you're going in a time machine, back in the 1940s, 1950s, without all of the racism and discrimination, obviously. It feels like you're going back in time. And after the pandemic, what happened is a lot of the older folks, they just stopped going to Cracker Barrel. So as a result, Cracker Barrel lost a huge chunk of their revenue. And so they were like, it's okay. We'll just pivot towards the youngins, the millennials who, pound for pound, statistically eat out more than any other age bracket, which I find believable. Because I think when I think about people my age, 35, 36, 37, especially females, like corporate females, I feel like 80% of their personality is being a foodie, right? Reviewing restaurants, talking about the best places to eat, the new Chinese dim sum place. Like that's their whole thing. But millennials and Gen Z, dude, they do not mess with Cracker Barrel. They do not want to associate themselves with Cracker Barrel. And so Cracker Barrel has lost their core audience, but also they can't gain traction with the new ones. And that's because, as we talked about earlier, the people under the age of 49, they would rather go to Chipotle. They would rather go to Texas Roadhouse. I'm telling you, that brand, the loyal customer base. And so with Cracker Barrel, if you're invested into them, I just feel like it might be a good time to jump out, especially if they do well and they go on a temporary bump and you're able to sell in the green. I mean, that's what I would do. But if you truly believe in their turnaround story, then I guess more power to you. I do not believe in their turnaround story. I think they need to change the name of their business. They also need to change their menu, and they also need to they need to they need to open up locations in college towns and in more urban, dense areas. I think their strategy of being one of the places that you can look forward to after you've been driving for 4 hours on the road, like it worked in the past, but I don't know if they can stay relevant in 2025 with that same business model. Just my take. There's also Hippo Holdings. This is a company where like 3 weeks ago I have never heard of, but they came across one of my stock screening research sessions. And then I was like, what the hell is this? I mean, the name itself kind of funny. Their company logo is funny. It's like a hippo where all you can see is like that much of his face. So I looked into it, and they do homeowners insurance. So you know how like there's a lot of these digital insurance companies like Lemonade and a few others? For a good reason. Insurance, dude, the margins are absolutely in their favor because they're not selling a product. They don't have overhead costs for the most part, except, running sales reps and HR, just like the human capital you need to run them. So think of it as insurance. Another way to think of them is like SaaS, right? Software as a service. You're selling them insurance. Like if you go travel and you want to get traveler's insurance or pet insurance. Dude, I have 2 dogs. My wife is all about pet insurance, and I agree with her. In the past, I didn't agree with it. I was like, why? Why do we need it? We'll just pay out of pocket. But if you have a dog or a cat, you understand how quickly those vet bills can climb. Like, dude, one of my freaking poodles, we needed to extract one of her tooth was like all wonky or something was wrong with it. We had to get it removed. And just that alone, with the anesthesia, the surgery, the labor fees and everything, it was like $3,000. But luckily, my wife convinced me that pet insurance is the way to go, and pet insurance covered it. But all that to say, super high margins, low overhead costs, the profitability of an insurance company is through the roof. And I think that's why a lot of Americans are so angry right now at health insurance companies like United Health. I mean, you saw what happened, right? Consequently, all the CEOs of all the big major health insurance companies, they removed their photos from the websites and from their LinkedIn profiles because they understand like their line of work, not very popular. And even some of my friends that are doctors, that's their biggest complaints about being in the medical profession, having to deal with insurance companies, the ones that are running their own private practices. Because you'll have like a patient that comes into the office that needs an operation or needs a particular set of pills or whatnot, and they can't give it to them because their insurance company won't support it or won't approve it. So like, all I'm trying to say is like the health insurance industry is absolutely broken and it needs to be repaired. But for the time being, I feel like there's so many different ways to do it, right? But where do you even start? So in the time being in 2025, insurance, any industry, whether it's homeowners insurance, pet insurance, or health insurance, super high margins, super profitable, low overhead costs. The margins are, for a business, it's what you want to see. But I feel like out of the entire insurance industry, the most hated, the least popular one is health insurance. But what I'm trying to propose is like, what's the alternative? To just eliminate it? Because then that's going to open up the door of a lot of people not being able to afford the treatments that they need. Or do we just, what is that thing called? Medicare for all? Give everyone one standardized version of health insurance, but then the rich won't like that because they're going to have to get the same standard in care and the same queue and wait times as the poor. So you see what I'm saying? So like the health insurance industry is absolutely broken here in the US, but for the time being, I don't know if it's going to change anytime soon. And that's because it's so profitable. They have so much people lobbying for them. There's powerful people that their interests align with them. That's why, like, dude, when I think about politicians, I'm about to go on a rant. I'm so sorry, but I feel like they should not be able to invest into individual stocks. And I'm not saying that to censor them or copy Russia or China or anything, but I feel like it's against and it's a conflict of interest where if a politician is, they have insider information. Yes, there's laws that say they can't, but are you stupid? Of course they have insider information. But if they're working on a legislation for a particular company and they give them some hush-hush money to help the bill pass, you see what I'm saying? And they invest into it before they moon. I'm talking about Nancy Pelosi here. I just feel like politicians, they should only be allowed to invest into, VTI or VU, the S&P 500. I think it's ridiculous that politicians and our policymakers are able to pick and choose individual stocks when they're supposed to represent the U.S. people. How can you represent the people when your pockets are being lined with, bribes and, hey, here's some $5 million. We'll give this to you. Can you just make sure that things go our way? Like, dude, that's I don't know. I think this video is going to be controversial. I'm saying a lot of weird stuff, and I get it. I don't even know why I'm saying it. I guess I'm just telling you my true thoughts and feelings. And that's why in the past, I didn't really care what the politicians were doing. But now I care. I want to know, why did she buy into this company? What does she know that I don't? Because I'm telling you, when you think about Nancy Pelosi, her performance in the stock market, I think the last time I saw, she beat out 95% of all super investors and hedge funds. A politician. Dude, I don't know. I don't agree with it. But anyways, what else do we have? Oh, referring to my note right here. One last thing about Hippo. So their financials are improving year over year, and they're finally positive in their free cash flow. So it is interesting, but what is not interesting is, I think during the pandemic, they used to be like $250 a share. And right now, going off of memory, I think they're hovering around like $23, $24 a share. So they have been absolutely demolished in the past 4 years. And at this point, people might argue it might be a good time to enter into Hippo Holdings, but it's a company that I haven't done enough homework on and confidence to say, yes, I can't say it. I don't know. But on surface level, looking at their income statement and balance sheet, it didn't look too bad. And then there's Burlington Stores, which if you've never heard of, it's very similar to TJ Maxx and Marshalls and Ross, where you'll have the Burlington procurement team source all of the last year seasonal clothing items. They'll put it in a warehouse for 4 to 5 years and then bring it back out. So in 2025, they'll be selling jackets, pants that were manufactured and I guess went out of style in 2020. And what's interesting about Burlington is whenever you walk into one, it is quite maybe like 3 times the size of a Marshalls or TJ Maxx, and their roof goes so much higher. It's like they only decide to build a Burlington inside of prior warehouses. And funny enough, when I had to wear a suit and tie and business formal clothes, which I didn't have any before I went off to corporate America, that's where I went. I went to Burlington Stores and got all of my suits there, funny enough. So you can get brand name clothes for like 50, 60, 70% off because they're old, but they're new. This is not a thrift store, by the way. Everything they sell is new. Would I invest into them? Absolutely not. What else do we have on Thursday? There's Global Water Resources. I took a look at them, a very quick glance, very similar to Essential Utilities and American Water Works. They're in the business of purifying and treating, sewage water. But their numbers, dude, it's so small. Like it's a fraction of what American Water Works is doing. And they're, I don't know. I guess because they're such a small cap water company, I would feel more confident going with what I know, which is American Water Works. So I don't know. I wouldn't invest into Global Water. There's also a Toro company. Funny enough, I see them as like the worst version of John Deere. They make equipment and supplies to maintain your grass, lawns, and turf fields. Not bullish at all about that company. And then there's Broadcom, which I feel like that's what all the other YouTubers are probably going to be like, oh, it's a huge week. No. I don't think anyone's going to give a damn what Broadcom's going to do. I think Nvidia was the one that kind of showed everyone like, dude, everything's okay. Don't even get me started on the whole Nvidia situation. They smashed earnings. Their guidance was beautiful. Their revenue went up almost triple-digit basis points from the year prior, and they went on a massive sell-off. It made no sense. But now they're back. They had a bounce and a rebound, and now they're back into the green. But I think that gave a lot of confidence back into the bears of Wall Street. Now we're like, oh, dude, we're cooked. AI is doomed. After Nvidia posted stellar results, I think with Broadcom, I'm sure they're going to do okay as well. I mean, all of the semiconductor chip AI companies have been killing it so far, except Intel. AMD did really well too, so why should Broadcom be any different? And then Costco, I'm not even going to waste my breath. Of course I want to buy into them, but would I ever buy into a retail, business that's their trading multiple is higher than Nvidia's? No, I wouldn't. But if there was some kind of like a unicorn event and Costco went on a sell-off 40, 50, 60% into the red on a single trading day, you bet your ass I would buy into it. But at its current prices and valuation, I wouldn't recommend anyone to buy into it. That's easy for me to say. What else do we have? We have Traeger, which I'm a huge fan of companies that have witty or relevant ticker symbol names. So Traeger makes a grill. I think you feed wood pellets into the side of it, and it helps give you that smoky flavor. If you've ever had steak or pork belly, we Koreans like to call it samgyeopsal, on a Traeger grill before, dude, it tastes phenomenal. Would I ever buy into their stock? Once again, just like Nike, I think Traeger makes a hell of a product, amazing. But the stock, nah, dude, I'm good. And then, sorry, I've been talking nonstop here for a while. Oh gosh, you know how weird it is where sometimes I'll go like 3 weeks without talking to anyone except my wife, because I work from home, full-time YouTuber, and then when the camera turns on and I make content with you guys, I have to just like pretend that there's someone there and we're hanging out, and this video will get like 500 views or something like that, maybe less. 500 people in a room just sitting with me and I'm talking to y'all. So it's kind of weird. But all that to say, I used to be a super extroverted, outgoing guy. And the older that I get, the more I just keep things to myself, and I just stopped trying to make friends. At this point, I just accepted my reality for what it is. Got a wife, got 2 dogs, and I've got you guys. Like, I stopped trying to make friends in my physical location in Japan. I just stopped. I'm like, whatever. But all that to say, dude, in the past, I used to be so much more talkative and ramble and yap. But now that I don't talk as much, it's, I don't know. I guess it's because in a natural conversation, there's pauses, right? Like, I would shut up and then you would start talking. I would listen. But I think it's weird because I'm the only one that's talking. And that's why I appreciate when you guys leave a comment or two on my videos, because I'm telling you, sometimes I'll upload a video and get no feedback, no interaction, no comments. I feel like a schizophrenic, as I'll be talking for an hour and it's like I'm talking to myself. You know what I'm saying? Like, bro. Anyways, where were we at? Oh, Potbelly. Hands down, I think they make one of the best deli sandwiches. But, dude, this company is struggling. They're about to be delisted from the stock market. They're penny stock. Sad to see. There's Funko, which this is so embarrassing to admit, but back in the day, I was super bullish on toys like Hasbro, Mattel, Funko, and out of the three, I decided to invest into Funko, and I actually did quite well, which is hilarious. Funko makes those, okay, please don't be hurt. It's kind of ugly. They make collectible toys where the head makes up 90% of the toy itself, of everything and anything. The Walking Dead, anime series, your favorite sports figures. And it's just one of the things where you just buy and you put it on your shelf or in your bathroom so that when you drop number 2, you'll have your Funko Pop, staring at you. Not bullish at all about this company. It's kind of funny. I think I put it on there because, dude, when I first started investing, I had no idea what the hell I was doing. I was investing into things where it was all, how do you say it? Not qualitative. It was all intangibles based. Like, you know what? They look interesting. Or the restaurant seems popular. As a result, I made good money, but I also lost a crap ton of money. Now I'm at this phase of my life where I will not touch any stock unless I dive into and look at all of their financials fundamentals. If I don't get a fuzzy feeling in my chest, I'm not investing into them. And that's why when I upload a video of like, hey, here are all the stocks that I'm buying right now, and here are all the ones that I'm selling, I hope that gives you a little more confidence to understand, like, I'm not just some guy that willy-nilly buys a stock that's on the dip. I do a thorough, really detail-oriented examination because I was burned really badly in the past. And I'll make a video about that in the future. But what else do we have? Oh, there's Noodles and Companies, which is another... Dude, like their potential, their business model, I think is so sound. So the reason why it says Noodles and Company is because when you go in, they sell like Asian style noodles, but they also serve like pasta, macaroni, and they base their pasta and noodle dishes from around the world. American, European, Asian, right? Like, doesn't that sound like a really interesting place? So instead of just going to a Japanese restaurant to get ramen or to Olive Garden to get quote unquote Italian pasta, you can go to Noodles and Company and everyone in the family can just pick what they want from a menu because they have it all. But I think they fall under that curse of like, if you try to do everything, then you're good at nothing. And I think that's what it is. Their taste is really bland. And I think if you're the type of person that does not like spices and flavoring, I think you'll love Noodles and Company. But if you enjoy spice, flavors, and ingredients that make your butthole sweaty, this isn't the place to go to. Unfortunately for me, this was one of my hangout spots with my friends. And for like first dates, call me cheap, but on the first date, instead of trying to impress, I always took the other person to a Noodles and Company because I just wanted to learn about them. Because imagine if you take them to like a steak restaurant and she ends up getting like the lobster as an appetizer, and for dessert she gets the $20 pound or chocolate cake, and that's the end of it. You guys just don't, the energy isn't there, the vibes are off, and yeah, you throw down $100 for you and $100 for her. So for me, I always thought like it's better to get to know the person on a low stakes establishment first. That way on round 2, then you can start, you see what I'm trying to get at? And I feel like that's pretty sound advice. If you're young or if you're in the dating scene, I still think that's sound advice. You shouldn't be trying to impress with your money or your status or your fame or anything that you have materialistic or worldly on the first date. Instead, you should just try to get to know each other. Show her your true personality, your virtues, your moral compass, your conversational skills, your communication, your listening ability. See if you guys align on how you feel about XYZ. What makes them passionate? What makes them sad? What makes them angry? Get to know them. Go. I wouldn't say Starbucks, but because I feel like whenever you eat, call me weird, but whenever I eat a good meal, I get in a better mood. So something like Chipotle, something like Noodles and Company, maybe even Potbelly sandwiches, not McDonald's. Okay, there's levels to this. I feel like that's a little too low. Okay, I'm not trying to be mean here, but like if you take someone on a first date to McDonald's or Wendy's or Burger King, like bro, I don't know about all that. I feel like if the menu price is at least $10, you might be in the green. But when you take your first date to a McDonald's and you straight up look them in the eye and you say, you got to get it from the dollar menu, I mean, I don't know, man. Because number one, that probably says you're cheap. You don't value their time. Number three, you're disrespectful. And the list goes on and on and on. Right? Like you're limiting them to the dollar menu. But I feel like Doodles and Company, not a bad place for a first date. The ambience and the restaurant environment itself, I think is pretty safe for a first date. But would I ever invest into them? I think they're very similar to Potbelly. They're struggling. Yeah, they're also a penny stock. Wouldn't touch them. And there's also El Pollo Loco, which I think they do Peruvian chicken. It's one of those Latin country style of chicken. I feel like every country has like their version of chicken. Like we Americans love the deep fried chicken. Some people say Koreans make the best chicken. And then there's also the Costco rotisserie chicken. And what's funny is I'm not a liar, okay? I'm actually allergic to chicken meat. And I've been allergic to them since middle school. So I haven't had chicken meat in over 20 years. Well, actually, I had a few times food poisoning related instances, but intentionally, it's been over 20 years. Which is weird because apparently there's like a protein difference between chicken meat itself and the egg. So I can eat the egg, but I cannot eat the meat. It's weird. And I would not label myself as a carnivore, but I would argue about 80% of what I eat in a single day is meat. The other 20% is like the fruits and veggies. I'm a huge meat kind of guy. I don't know why that is. It's just, I think growing up, I didn't get to eat a lot of meat. And I think that's why my height was stunted. Dude, I'm supposed to be a lot taller than I am. But anyways, meat I think is really good if you are a man that is training, that cares about your testosterone, and it gives you a lot of the essential amino acids and nutrients that you need. I could go on, but yeah, I'm a meat and potatoes kind of guy. It's like in another lifetime I would have been born in Ukraine or Russia. Speaking of which, dude, what I just said right there, if I was a mid-30s guy in one of those countries, dude, I would be in the front lines right now fighting. Dude, that would be horrific. That would suck. Hopefully all of that comes to an end soon, man. I feel for the poor sucker that is dying on the front lines because, some people end up deciding to be greedy or to, why can't this is what dude, I'm about to go on another rant. Why can't these stupid ass politicians, dictators, whatever, why can't they just settle their own beef in a private room, duke it out, jiu-jitsu, whatever it is, tug of war, pull on the rope, so you don't have to send us commoners to go die for you. Do you see what I'm trying to say? Like, I'm a veteran, and I always thought about that. I'm like, if this dictator wants to take over another country or do something that's evil, why don't you go into a room with that other country's leader, put on some boxing gloves, fight it out, and the winner wins. You don't get to do what you said you were going to do. Why can't we just have that? Instead, we got to send thousands of people to go get PTSD, to get blown up by grenades and bullets. It's like, dude, it's stupid. Yeah, I don't know. Have you ever thought about that? It's always the poor that have to go die in the wars. Dude, the rich and the elite, they always find a way to weasel their way out of it, and they end up not doing anything, and they just benefit from all of it. Except, I will give props to where props is due. I think that one dude in England, forgot what his name is. He was like a helicopter pilot, and he's a prince. So like, if I was a soldier, I would follow him. Like, he walks the talk. I think that's the epitome of servant leadership. But when you have a dude that has a gut, is 200 pounds overweight, and is greedy, and is saying like, dude, I just want to take over this country, or I just want to eliminate your people and commit horrific crimes, and he would never go into the battlefield with you. Like, everything about that is wrong in itself, but the fact that he's, drinking the finest wines and the finest foods while your people are starving. Okay, I don't even know what I'm saying. All right, let's move on. That was too much. All that to say, I hate dictators and some of these greedy ass politicians, dude. Friday, literally, there's no companies that I would recommend. I think there was like a list of 7 or 8, none that deserve your attention. So instead, I wanted to give a shout out. I don't know if you've ever watched K-dramas before, and I promise what I'm about to say is not going to offend you. Because when you think about K-drama, right, you think about like, a romantic comedy or a drama, right? But let me present to you Death's Game. Now, this series right now is streaming on Amazon, and I gotta tell you, it is so freaking good. So it's basically about, and man, it punches you pretty hard in the gut because South Korea is one of the, I think they're top 10 in the world for their GDP output, which, by the way, the economists right now are predicting that the first quarter of 2025 in the US, we're going to have a declining GDP. That's kind of scary. And I think that's why the sell-off was happening last week with the ramping up of the tariffs and the decline in GDP. Things are about to get really messy in the stock market, or opportunities to buy a lot of good companies going on the dip. I don't know. It depends on how you look at it. So anyways, Korea is one of the top 10 countries in terms of GDP output. However, they are also riddled with an epidemic, like the highest proportion of people just taking their own life. And it's all ranges, age ranges. You'll have even students, because Korea has this society where you have to study your balls off because there's one test that you take your junior year or senior year of high school that determines the rest of your fate. Because through that test, it basically dictates whether or not you get into one of the top universities, and almost all of them are located in Seoul except for KAIST. When I think about KAIST, that's like MIT here in the US equivalent. I think it's outside of Seoul. I think it's somewhere in Gyeonggi-do. But anyways, if you don't do well on that test, dude, you're cooked. Because if you can't get into one of the top universities, then you cannot get into one of the top companies unless you're like super talented or whatever. But so even like the students at a young age, they'll themselves. And then that type of environment also bleeds over into the corporate atmosphere where I don't think you're allowed to work more than 60 hours a week by law, but my friends that I met through the MBA program that were from Korea, dude, they were putting in easily 80 to 90 hours a week. The Korean work culture is not for everyone. It sucks, is what I hear. But anyways, so this K-drama, I shouldn't even refer to it as a K-drama. Let's just refer to it as a show. It's based on the guy that you see with the glasses on the left, who ends up deciding to just take his own life because his life is just one setback after another. And it hit close to home because at one point in my own life, dude, I didn't think I was going to live to see age 30. Let me just put it like that, okay? But I'm so glad that I chose to live because I would have missed out on so much of life that I've experienced in the past handful of years, like meeting my wife. But anyways, it's a dude that ends up taking his own life, and this show goes through, I guess, the ramifications and implications of taking your own life. So it's like that one movie in the US, like the Christmas Story. You know how like it shows you what your life would have been like if you were gone? It's kind of like that, but he gets chances to live again in the bodies of other people. And he gets to reincarnate again and again and again. And in that, it's so much more deeper because there's also a person that he loves, his mom. There's he gets to see his life from a third party perspective and the different bodies. You see all the different people on the screen on this poster. He gets to experience life through all of these different people. And so I guess it's a show where it's dark, but it's also really relatable if you've ever been in a dark place before. So I give a shout out to Def's game. I didn't think I would like it that much, but it's pretty good. It's not a show for the women or feel good feelings. This is definitely a show catered towards the men. Yeah. I feel like I did not do the synopsis any justice. It gets deeper than that because every single time he's reincarnated, he has to do something without any spoiler alerts. And it's mission critical, if that makes sense. Anyways, let's move on. So what's my game plan after going through this entire, the list of companies that are reporting their earnings this week? Well, I'm going to continue to buy the stocks that I shared with y'all a week ago. That video is what you see on your screen right there, stocks that I'm buying and selling, and I explain why. I'm doubling down, and I keep buying into those companies. So I guess my question to you is, now that the stock market is acting really wonky right now, are you buying the dip or are you waiting it out? Because I think both sides to that coin, I think you guys are both right and wrong. Because some people are advocating that, dude, this is a falling knife. It's just only going to get worse. And there's other people that are like, I think the stock market is overreacting. The RSI tells us that everything is oversold. This is the perfect time to pick up more shares. So tell me what you're doing. Because me personally, I'm not going to say that I'm a bull or bear of the stock market, but I've been buying. So that's what I'm doing. And what else before I close out? Because I feel like this is the only video series where I just kind of talk to you guys, kind of like a podcast format. Other than the stock market, let's see. My Seattle Sounders just had their, their last match in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. They beat this team from Guatemala, beat the socks off of them, and they advanced to the round of 16, so that was pretty cool. And my Tottenham Hotspurs, they were on a winning streak. I think they had 2 or 3 games in a row where they won, and then they swallowed a loss with Manchester City. They lost 1-0, but it makes sense. I think Angie is putting all of his marbles into one ball sack right now. I think we're going to go all in for the Europa Cup because I truly think we have a good chance to win it all. I think we're playing this team from Turkey next, so we'll see how that goes. And something about me, I know when you look at me, I don't really look physically fit, but I try to work out almost every day. And I don't do it for physical reasons or to be vain. Right, I'm way past that age where I post, shirtless photos of myself, which I used to do when I was a young kid. I feel like I was stupid. I'd be working out with my friends. We'd all take our shirts off and flex, take photos. I used to be a bodybuilder. Now I just work out for my mental health. Because whenever I go through the stretch of time without any physical activity, I start getting more and more devastated about myself, my situation, and just sadness just starts creeping, and it sucks, dude. And that's why there's such a thing as exercising out of depression. Not for everyone, but for someone like me. Because, there's been studies that were published that says for certain people, exercising is just as effective as taking medicine for depression. And so for me, I exercise for my mental health. It always puts me into a better mood, better mindset. My productivity for work improves. It's a win-win-win all around. For the past year and a half, I've been doing calisthenics, which is kind of funny. Because when I was in the Army, I absolutely hated push-ups and sit-ups and running. But that's what I do now. I do body weight basics. I do pull-ups, I do dips, I do push-ups, I do squats. That's kind of who I am. But yesterday, my wife and we went to the gym, and we lifted them weights like a meathead. And what did I do? I did farmer's carries. I did gorilla rows. I did I did dumbbell presses. I did reverse lunges with weights, deadlifts, squats, sled pulls. I went ham. And I woke up this morning, dude, I feel like I went 5 rounds in the cage, MMA style. I am so freaking sore. Even as I am filming this, my butt area, my glutes is so freaking sore. Like, not even in a naughty way. Like, I can't even sit down and sit up fast. I have DOMS, delayed onset of muscle soreness beyond belief. The lactic acid is just building up everywhere. Yeah, I just wanted to tell you too, like, regardless if you're feeling good or bad, I truly think that if you haven't had some time to just go outside and get some fresh air, to exercise, if you can, if you're able, do it. Do it. Because going to the gym and lifting weights, like, I don't like doing it, but man, it's such a good feeling afterwards. Likewise, just going on a 2-mile walk, listening to some music, I'm telling you, it is so good for you. Your mental health, you'll get better sleep that night. Scout's honor for most people. It'll help you digest your food better. Like if you had a big ass dinner, you order 2 McDonald's meals, it'll help you digest better. Yeah, I just encourage you to just get your feet moving, get the blood going, and yeah. I guess that begs the question, why did I go to the gym yesterday? I think that's because lately I started to notice that I'm becoming too comfortable. Like, I push myself in terms of like work and my other endeavors that I'm doing, but in terms of like the physical realm, I was getting too comfortable. Like, usually I try to do 100 pull-ups in a day, and I break it down by doing sets of 10. I'm not that amazing, okay? Like, I'll do 10 in the morning, 10 1 hour later, I'll do like 20 during lunch. When you break it down, it's not that impressive. But these days, dude, I've been half-assing it, and I realized in my own life, whenever I get too comfortable and I become complacent in any area, it always ends up in a bad way for me. I end up doing shortcuts, I end up being lazy, I end up being miserable, irritable, angry, and that's why, I don't know if you're anything like me, but if you've just been getting too comfortable, I think it's a good time for you to shock your nervous system. Take a cold shower. Do something that pushes you out of your limits. It'll be good for you. Anyways, with that said, I love you guys. Shout out to the Patreon family. Thanks for supporting. And as always, stay safe. Good luck in the stock market, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Peace.